So, I'm going to chat a little bit about the times right now. Some inflationary times are coming up, I think. And how is that going to impact us as landlords? And so if you think about inflation, it can affect a couple different areas. Utilities on your property get inflated, taxes, your insurances, your mortgage interest, your house value, which is, a good thing, and your rent can also get inflated. So of those areas, as a landlord, there's really only two that I'll talk about tonight, and that's going to be utilities and rent. Taxes are the taxes. Insurance, talk to your insurance broker. Mortgage, talk to your banker or mortgage broker. But for utilities and rent, we're going to cover a couple of things in there that hopefully can smooth some of these inflationary times out and keep your rentals filled, and with happy tenants that are paying their rent on time. So first of all, 2 points on utilities. There's 2 points of contact. There's the utility companies, and there's also the tenant. So we specialize in a lot of single family homes, and we also do multiplexes, but the single family homes, typically the tenant pays the utilities. So it's direct there. Now, this next thing that I'm going to talk about can actually benefit those tenants as well. And that's to do with the utility companies. If you contact your utility company, a lot of the times you can set up an annualized installment payment plan on your utilities. So what they do is they take all the ups and downs, they take the whole year of the previous year and take that total, divide it by 12, and then they give you that monthly payment in an annualized form. So that makes your utility bill the same every month. So in the summer, when it's supposed to be lower, it'll be a little bit higher. But in the winter, when it's a little bit higher, it'll be a little bit lower. So it stabilizes your costs. So you don't have 1 month where you have huge bills because we had -40 weather for 3 weeks. Edmontonians probably understand that, I'm guessing. So if you do that, that'll help you as a landlord if you're the one dealing with utilities. A couple different ways. It'll tell you what your utility costs are every month, and they're static, and then they go up for the next year. So I think that's a great plan. It can help your tenants too, because if you tell your tenants to do this, that will allow them to standardize their monthly expenses too, so that they don't get into financial problems in the winters when their bills get high. So it can help a couple different fronts there. So that's the utilities. That's the utility company. Now for the tenant side of the contact, you can have your utilities set up a whole different way. Like so for single family, we have the tenants put the utilities into their name. That's a very standard practice. In multifamily, you can have it's set up a whole bunch of different ways. You can have it metered, individually metered if it's a newer build, so that each tenant has its own power and gas. You can have it so that it's in the landlord's name and the tenants pay a percentage every month. So you basically have to take the bill, work out the percentage, tell the tenant what it is, and then they pay you that. You can have it in the tenant's name. So you might have an up and down, and it's 60% up and 40% down, and the main floor tenant puts it in their name, and the tenant down below pays them. It can get messy. There's a lot of cons to that, especially if the upstairs doesn't pay the utility bill. You can actually get your power cut off, all that kind of stuff. And that impacts not just them, it impacts the basement tenant, and it can also impact your property if it goes out in the cold. You can have a lot of damage done. You can also have it in the landlord's name with a flat fee. Typically, that's what we recommend is a flat fee, but we go one step further and we say a flat fee with a cap. So let's say it's an up and down. You do your due diligence, you talk to utility companies, you get it set up on a monthly plan the whole time. And, the average is, $400 a month or $450 a month. So in the lease, make sure it's in the lease, as we know that from Shanna. In the lease, you want to have utilities are set at this amount. If it goes above that, they're responsible for anything above that, maybe on a percentage basis if there's an up and a down. So those are two big areas where, depending on the property that you buy and how you want to handle the utilities, you might have to try a couple different things to see what works best for you. In our opinion, the flat fee with a cap is some of the best ways to do it, because if you do percentages, then you start getting tenants fighting about, well, the upstairs is using too much water. He's showering every day. I only shower twice a week, or they keep the thermostat at 22. Can you believe they keep it at 22? And, I don't want to pay for his use of this and that. So you can get internal bickering like that. But if it's a flat fee, it's a flat fee. It takes all that stress out of your life, especially if you're going to self-manage. If you have a property manager, it doesn't matter because they're the ones that'll deal with the stress, right? So with that, now let's talk about, so that was utilities, how to manage that during inflationary times. Now let's talk about rent. Now rent, so in Edmonton, we haven't really seen a rental increase in probably 5 years on average. There'll be specific properties that might have had rental increases, but on the average, the supply has gone up, the rental rates have gone down, and you just don't see that year after year increase. But now as we're starting to see inflation go up, rents are starting to increase. And Devin, I have to agree with you when you said at the beginning that, you're seeing more and more people come to Edmonton. That's one of the canaries in the mine shaft that we see too. When we see rental applications from people out of province moving to Edmonton, we know that things are starting to move, and we're definitely starting to see that now. We're getting a lot of people from Saskatchewan and Ontario moving to Alberta for jobs, and that is a fantastic sign. So Alberta, so I'm going to give a little bit of perspective around Alberta too, because some of you are from Ontario or BC. Landlording is different. The rules around rental increases are different. In Ontario, it's a fixed flat fee type of thing, set by the government. In Alberta, you can raise your rent however much you want. Every 12 months, you can raise it. So if you want to double or triple your rent, you can. Now, you also have to deal with consequences of that, but that gives you a lot of flexibility. So there's no cap on rental increases. You can do a rental increase every 12 months, which is another reason why fixed term leases are really good. On a fixed term lease, we're very, very big fans, just like Shanna is. We only do fixed term leases. And I know in the chat, someone asked the difference between a fixed term and monthly periodic. So maybe I'll just cover that real quick. So fixed term is a fixed term. It's a 1 year, it's a 6 month, it's a 1 month, it's a 3 month. It can be any time frame, but it's a fixed term. At the end of the fixed term, it is deemed that if a new lease is not in place, the tenant has to move out, plain and simple. So if you don't want a tenant there, that's the easiest way to get them out. On a monthly periodic lease, that's a month-to-month lease. So that means every month, it continues on. If you want to do a rental increase, you have to give a 90-day notice. If you want to evict the tenant, I think in Alberta, there's only 3 ways to do that. And it might be like a family member has to move in. It has to be a substantial renovation, and there's one other one. I can't remember what that is, but two of those, I think it's conversion
Substantial breach.
or something like that.
Substantial breach.
Well, no, a substantial breach that'll take away any lease. But I'm saying if there's no substantial breach, there's only 3 reasons you can have a tenant move out if they have a monthly periodic lease. And all of those, well, not all of them. One of them is a 6-month notice. The other 2 are a 1-year notice. So if you don't get along with the tenant that you're dealing with and they haven't done a substantial breach, they're always pay their rent, but for whatever reason you don't want them there, you have to give them a long notice to say, you know what, I'm ending this monthly periodic, and it has to be for a specific reason, one of the 3. So very tough to get a tenant out. Whereas a fixed term, when the term's over, it's done. So that's the biggest benefit of the fixed term. Just in our opinion, it just gives the landlords way more control of who's in the property. So now how do we increase rents during this inflationary time? So first of all, your lease is coming due in a while. The first thing you have to do is assess the market. And just like Shanna said, you research online. That's probably one of the easiest ways to do it. We like rentfaster.ca, great website. You can plug in particulars about the units that you're looking for geographically. You can map them on a map. It'll give you all the rental data for what you're looking for, the average rents, the scope of them, and you can dive deeper and really compare them to make sure, are they in the same area? Are the renovations similar to the ones that you have? Are the amenities? How many units are available in the area? What's the supply like? Because that's going to tell you also too of if you're charging $1,300, but there's 4 others in the area that are similar to the yours for $1,100, you have to be in the right ballpark. So first thing you do is you assess the market. Second thing you do is decide for yourself if you have to get market rent. So I'm going to propose this question for you. Would you rather have respectful tenants that take care of your property and don't pay top market rent, or would you want to try to get every last dollar out and roll the dice on a tenant profile? They always say the devil is versus the one you don't. A good tenant in our mind is worth gold. And, personally, I'm a landlord myself. I would rather not get top dollar rent and have someone in there that takes care of the property, is respectful, has good communication skills. That's worth a lot of stress and time and whatnot. So, and then you also have to factor in, what's the cost of 1 month vacancy? So if someone says, hey, you know what, you're raising the rent by $300, I can't do that, so I'm out of here, and they're going to give notice. It may take you a month. It may take you 2 to fill that vacancy. How much is that going to affect your cash flow down the road? Amount of increase matters. So $50 a month over a year is $600. Now think of that from a tenant side. Oh, he's raising my rent by $50 a month. There's 2 of us working this, so that's really only $25 each. What's the cost for me to move? How much is it going to be for a moving truck? How much is it going to cost for new deposits for utilities? Am I going to have to take time off to move things? All that kind of stuff that goes through a tenant's mind. So you can definitely, you have to be cautious with the amounts that you increase it. And then when do you propose an increase? That's the next question. So I'll tell you our system, and we contact tenants 90 days out. And the reason being is 2 reasons. One is we want to catch them before they even think of moving, right? So yeah, we want to be first and foremost on their mind of hey, are we going to stay here? Hey, we haven't even thought about moving yet. And we're getting, conversations about a new lease. If they decide not to, then that gives us lots of time to prepare to get it marketed, to get it online, so we can start showing it the first day of the last month, so that we can minimize the risk to the landlords for a vacancy. The other thing we do is we don't give them a long time to think about it. If you give a tenant a lot of time, so you offer them a new lease and you say, hey, you know what? In 48 hours, we need to know what's going on. And the reason we don't give a lot of time frame is we don't want them to going out and taking a look and deciding on what are my other options out there. If they're happy where they're at, that decision should be quite easy to make. Also, too, you've heard it said in sales quite often, an indecisive mind tends to lead to the status quo. So if they're busy in their own lives and stuff, chances are they'll rent for another year just out of ease of simplicity, to make their lives easier. Now, if they plan on not renewing, it's amazing how many landlords don't even ask why. And I think that's a very important thing is, well, why wouldn't you want to renew? And it could be something that is, hard, like it could be a job change. It could be a divorce. It could be something you have no control over, right? But it could be something that you could rectify. They could say, well, this property doesn't have a dishwasher and we really want a dishwasher now. Well, what if I put a dishwasher in, we're thinking about getting a pet and, it doesn't have a fenced yard. Well, what if the possibility exists that I put up a fence? So there are ways. If you find a good tenant, you need to cater to them. And that's very, very important. Now, how do you propose a rental increase? A lot of that depends on the price point as well. A $25 or $50 rental increase, that's pretty easy for a tenant to stomach. When you start getting up into $100, $150, $200 a month rental increases, oh, just a minute. Oh, there you are. And when you start getting up into those, a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. I think we've all heard that phrase. So you might want to offer an incentive. And when I'm talking about incentives with landlords, I always say you want to give an incentive that doesn't just benefit the tenant, but it also benefits you. I'll give you a couple examples. One would be, well, how about if you renew your lease, we're going to get rid of that old stove and put a new stove in, right? Benefit to the tenant, gets a new stove to deal with for the next year while they're there. You get a better appliance, right? So it's a win-win. Giving them a choice of a renovation. You can say, listen, I'm thinking about either replacing the stove or the fridge, or we're looking to change the flooring in one of the bedrooms. Which would you like? Having them be able to make the place feel more like home for them, I think is invaluable for them. Another one that a lot of landlords probably don't even think of is a furnace cleaning. Benefit to the tenant, health-wise, cleaner air, lower utility costs, benefit for the owner, keeps the furnace running a lot better. Maintenance on a furnace can extend the life of it so that you don't have to fork over thousands of dollars to get a new one. Another one would be carpet cleaning. That's the same sort of thing. Cleans the place up for the tenant, gets rid of odors, gets rid of dirt and stuff like that, gets rid of the dirt and the fibers that break down the carpets. So it makes your carpets last longer. So there's little things like that you can do to soften the blow of a rental increase and really help things go along. Now, when it comes to rental increases, one thing I'm going to say too is in an inflationary time like today, I think any rental increase that you can do is worthwhile. So even if you have a great tenant and you're near the top of where you are for rent, a $25 little bump, if you're doing another year lease, isn't that hard to stomach. And then next year, you're already up $25. So the next year is 25. Everything you're adding, you have to sort of keep up with inflation. So a lot of those reasons that you're doing that are really just to load it up for future years where you might see rents go up, 20% in 1 year. You never know, right? In Edmonton, I can remember back in 05, 06, 07, we saw market values of a house. I remember, I think it went up 52% in 1 year of the value of the home. Well, the value of the home directly impacts rental prices as well, because, you have to be able to have the rent pay for your costs. So if the price of a house goes up, then rents have to go up too. And that's all part of inflation. So I'm hoping some of those things really help out for, how to figure out what you want to do for a rental increase, by going online and figuring out what you want, determining whether you have to do that all at once. Maybe the market says, hey, $200 is what we can do. But I'm happy with the 100. These tenants are good. Maybe it's a tenant that you don't want there, and maybe it says 200. Well, let's put it to 400. If we're going to have to deal with them for the next year, I want a premium on the rent to accommodate me for all the stress that I'm dealing with. So, and they may say, okay, yeah, we'll stay. So that's a win for you because you get better cash flow. You're paying for your time, and if you're going to deal with a tenant that's going to stress you out, then get paid for it. So, and then when to do it, so get in there before any of them start even thinking about moving, and then softening the blow with incentives. So, I'm hoping that's going to give you guys some things to think about over the next little while when your leases come due. And, if you need any other advice, I'm more than happy to respond to emails or phone calls and anything you want to know.